Wouldn't it be awesome if you had a community where your members did the marketing for you and they actually created the content alongside of you and they were lifelong customers? This is actually something that can be done. I've helped dozens of clients build thriving communities on Kajabi and increase their engagement. And the secret really isn't about posting more content or being online 24/7. What I've seen most people actually get wrong is that they build a community and they just come in with that expectation that people are going to just engage automatically. They make a few posts here and there, and then they're wondering why people aren't commenting. And a lot of times they'll invite people and they don't actually take the time to make them feel belonged in that community. But when you understand these 3 strategies that I'm going to share with you today, you will be able to build a community that practically runs itself. And if you stick around to the end, I'm going to fill you in with some extra tips that I've seen work really well for some of our clients. So let's get into it. Strategy number 1 is to give your people attention by allowing them to show their expertise. Okay, hear me out on this one. The group project kind of analogy that I want to share with you. So think about being in a group and you show up to the meeting every time. You have all these ideas and you want to contribute, but the leader of the group never asks your input. They kind of just present their own ideas and just say, any thoughts? You kind of feel invisible, right? You kind of stop showing up and stop engaging in the project as a whole. Your community is actually very much the same thing. You don't just present and ask for reactions. You need to ask for their expertise. Okay? So what most people do in a community, they'll make a post like, I just launched my new course. What do you think? Or here's my new logo. Do you like it? These results are actually going to be super generic. You're going to get things like, looks great, congrats, love it. So it's not really any engagement. There's no depth to it. To really improve the engagement in your community, instead of what do you think of my new course, you could ask something like, I'm designing a module on, let's say, email marketing. What's the one thing you wish someone had taught you about email marketing when you started? Okay, that kind of allows a little bit more in-depth conversation. Instead of asking, do you like this logo? You can ask, which of these 2 logos do you think build more trust with our target audience and why? Asking why at the end of a question really, really helps, and giving them 2 options and eliciting their opinion on why they think something is allows them to show their expertise. All right. Allow people to write in-depth paragraphs showcasing what they know. This makes them feel more valued because you're actually inviting them to share their thoughts and their knowledge. And the best part about this too is it's not just you being the expert, other members can learn from each other. And you can actually get some really incredible insights that you can use in your teachings. And one thing that I notice a lot in communities is people always want to kind of compete to give the best answer. And that kind of really improves engagement as well. Okay, so don't ask things like, what do you think? Because you're going to get surface reactions. You want to ask more in depth, like what's the one thing or which one and why? And you'll get more expertise in contribution. Another cool little tip too is when you get a very good response for somebody, you can call them out by their name, right? So for example, you could say something like, Sarah's answer here is exactly what I was thinking. Thank you for sharing that, Sarah. And you could even pin someone's response. If they had a really in-depth analysis or explanation, you can pin it. And that really makes people feel seen and they feel valued. Now, if you haven't actually built your community yet and you're just here kind of feeling things out on how to do it the right way, I'd love for you to come and check out the Kajabi community. This is where we have our community and we help our clients build theirs. There's lots of features in there that allow you to create this engagement that we're talking about today in this video. So if you want to go check out a free trial, there's a link in the description there. We also include some exclusive bonuses that are going to help you to actually get going in your first community here in Kajabi. Strategy number 2. Let your community help you build your content. All right, this is so important. When people help create something, they become emotionally invested. They feel like they have ownership. They kind of become your biggest advocates. And that's where they promote your stuff because they were part of it. Okay, so imagine that you're, opening a restaurant. Okay, so you have the option to create this entire menu yourself and then you announce it to your customers. Or you could invite your best customers to a tasting event. Let them vote on the dishes. Ask them what's missing. So if you think of these two different options, which one do you think is actually going to get customers to actually tell everybody about this restaurant, right? Which one are they going to feel more connected to? So obviously the one where they participated in the creation of the menu, right? They're going to feel like it's their own restaurant because they were part of building it. So I had a client who was creating a course on productivity, but instead of building it by herself in her own little silo, she actually posted in her community that she was creating this productivity course. And she asked, what is the one productivity struggle that you can't seem to solve? She actually got 47 detailed responses. And she built that entire course around the top 5 struggles. When she launched, guess what? Those 47 people, they were her biggest promoters. And why do you think that? It's because they helped create it. Okay. You can easily do this in your community. So before you actually create anything, ask your community, what do they need, right? You can run a poll, like, should I do A or should I do B? You can create a feature request channel. So you can have an actual channel in your community that allows people to just constantly put in new ideas for you if there's something they think that they need or they're missing. And you can actually give early access to these members who contribute. So another extra perk. And when you launch, you can include things like thanking people by name in your community for suggesting this topic or this module, right? And you can also allow people to test out and you can get their feedback right away. And this really, really helps you because you're not guessing what people want. They're actually telling you, right? You're building it for them, with them. They feel really invested in your success. And when you launch, they're already sold because they helped you create it, right? You're even going to get testimonials before you even finish building it. Your community becomes your product development team. Strategy number 3 is where I say to open up the factory doors and give your community that behind the scenes access. Now, I know some of you are kind of cringing on this one and you're not really excited about the idea of showing everybody what's going on in your life. Trust me, I'm very much the same. But think of it this way. When you give people access that other people don't have access to, they feel special. And when people have special experiences, they're going to share them, right? This creates kind of super fans that are kind of connected to your journey. Think of it as the Backstage pass, right? If you go to a concert and you buy just a regular concert ticket and then you get a Backstage pass along with it in the same concert, one experience is going to be a little bit different than just going to the concert or going to the concert and the Backstage pass, right? You get this insider look. You're going to see the setup. You're going to meet the artist. You're going to understand kind of the process of what's going on to build this concert. So which experience are you going to be more inclined to talk about, right? The community should feel like a Backstage pass, right? It doesn't need to have every single details. It just needs to have that insider look that's exclusive, right? Some things you could do is like share your revenue dashboard once a month and say, here's what worked and what didn't work. You could talk about a failed launch. I thought that this was going to sell 100 units and it only sold 3, but this is what I learned. You could even go live while you're working, which is one of my favorite things to do. You could be editing a model right now and just ask people to jump in and tell them if this makes any sense. You could share your roadmap or your vision and ask people, what should I prioritize in this? Voice memos is also a really nice thing to do. You can just talk to people and just say, hey, I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about that. What do you guys think too? And include them in that back and forth kind of discussion you're having in your head. So one of our clients runs a design community, and every Friday she posts a messy middle update where she kind of shows some designs that didn't really work well and the client feedback that kind of stung a bit and projects that she's struggling with. And her members actually really love it because it's real, right? They can connect with it. And they'll comment with their own advice and their encouragement, and a lot of times their own stories. She's putting herself as not just a teacher anymore, she's actually a peer. Now think about a social media compared to your private community. So social media is kind of like a coffee shop where everyone's kind of having service level conversations. You can't really get that deep, right? But your private community with the Backstage kind of access is like a VIP lounge where real conversations happen. You get a deeper relationship with the people in that community compared to the coffee shop people. Some simple ways that you can kind of create this Backstage kind of feeling and this exclusivity is to just simply share some behind the scenes updates. You can be transparent about, the analytic numbers that are going on, any of your struggles, or even sharing your wins. Work with me lives are definitely one of my favorites, that you can just jump in and kind of see what I'm working on in real life. Founder's Diary channel is another one that I have seen that I think is a pretty cool idea. And just ask for advice on things that you're wondering about, right? Think of people as your equal and not that you are the expert and you can't take advice from anyone else, because you most definitely can. This is actually going to help people see you as a real person and you're not just a static kind of content creator. And members kind of feel like they're part of your inner circle. And this is really, really helpful for engagement. When people become emotionally invested in your success, you're going to see a huge difference in your community. When you win, they actually feel like they've won too. Now, a couple of bonus considerations for you to help with your engagement is to really consider the platform that you're using. There are some platforms out there that just lend itself really well to be able to allow people to engage in a better way. So making sure that you have mobile accessibility, that one's a really important one because most people are on their go or on their phone, or they're sitting and waiting in line for something. And that's a lot of times opportunities for them to engage in your community. So keeping that platform idea under consideration is really important. Now, moderation of your community is also really important. You want to make sure that the expectations of and guidelines of what your community is all about is clear from day one, right? What's acceptable, what's not, and you want to be really specific. Burnout is a real thing when it comes to communities. You need to remember that you don't need to respond to everything. You need to build some systems that kind of encourage member-to-member engagement, so it's not you trying to answer every single question in the community. You're going to want to make sure that your people are able to answer each other's questions and that you can come in as you're needed and not feel like you are the only sole answerer of your community. Another thing that I like to tell people is never launch your community empty. Make sure that you have some content in there before you bring people in there, because it is scary to go in and the room is empty. So have, 5 to 10 kind of posts already in there to elicit some engagement and have something for people to do, making it look like it's active so people just don't have that weird, uncomfortable feeling when they get inside. And one of the biggest things that I really want to remind people is that your member onboarding sequence is really, really important. That first 24 hours when someone comes into your community really makes a difference on whether they're going to stay, if they're going to be a lurker, or if they're just going to jump right back out. So make sure you have a really clear welcome sequence, clear directions on where they should go, how do they start, and how do they engage in that community so that they feel welcomed and that they feel like they actually belong there. So I want you to remember to make sure you ask your people for the answer and not just ask them for opinions, and make them feel like they are the experts. Let your community help you build. Okay, they're going to become your biggest advocates. And don't forget to open up the factory doors so you can share real, messy journey that you're going through. Now, one of my clients, she actually changed how she asked her questions in the community, and she saw engagement go from 5% all the way up to 40% in just a couple of weeks. Another let her members co-create her course, and she actually sold it out in 48 hours. So these tips are really, really important for you to follow. Now, if you want to see inside a real active community, you can join us in the Unstuck Me Club for free. And that link is in the description. We also have a paid membership if you want to join us in some live calls. We have strategy and hot seat calls where you can get coaching from myself and from Malva. So you can jump into there as well. Link for that is in the description. Now, if you want to see inside of an actual Kajabi community, you can watch this video right here where I do a full walkthrough of the back end setup of our community.